This is another episode of the NIL show. I'm Adam. That's Sean. That means we've got some exciting things to talk about. Coming off of Memorial Day weekend, we are recording on Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. It was a busy Memorial Day weekend. But before we get into the busyness of the work, what'd you guys do for fun?
We had a wedding up in Lake Geneva, which was cool. I've never been up to Lake Geneva before. Everything here, since I'm new-ish in Chicago, is a new experience. Lake Geneva is beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Like an hour north of Chicago. So awesome wedding up there. And then we had some family time, did some grilling. It was a good, relaxing Memorial Day. The weekend always ends sooner than you think. Like next thing you know, it's Tuesday and you're like, oh my God. But yeah, it was good. It was a good weekend. How about you?
What's the L&B grill specialty?
I was pumped, man. We had some people come over yesterday. I love grilling and like hand up, I am not a cook. I stink at making things, but I can grill stuff up. And so
apply fire until done.
That's it, man. That's it. Maybe just I don't know, roll it over a couple times, throw some seasoning on it, get real crazy and marinate it for a couple hours ahead of time if you're really, feeling yourself. But I am a chicken drumstick guy through and through.
Wow.
So I don't know why they only like these chicken drumstick packs. You can get like a 12 pack or a 10 pack for like $6 or $7, sometimes cheaper at the grocery store every time. I don't know why they're so cheap. I think they're the biggest steal at the grocery store.
And delicious.
So yeah, and they're delicious. I had them for lunch today, the leftovers. So yeah, that is my go-to move on the grill. It's delicious. The people that came over seemed to like it. So A plus. How about you? What are you grilling?
Nobody had food poisoning.
That's right.
I'm a brat guy. Nice. I feel like I rarely opt for the brats when I'm out. And so when you get that char grill on there, there's just something about, the spices in the brat, a good cheddar. Geneva opted for the cheddar jalapeno brats this time.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were choice. Obviously, being in Chicago, I don't have to wait to grill to get hot dogs, right? Like you can pretty much get a hot dog whenever you want, and so the brat feels a little bit like it's a special occasion. So that's what we went with. My mom's birthday coincides with Memorial Day, so had a little celebration, a little dip in the pool just to say we went in. It was a little chilly, but
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask that the pool's open.
Pool's open. We're here. Summer has arrived.
Very nice.
I think. Before yesterday, I try to take advantage of some of the nice things. So I try to go in every day. Usually happens at 8 a.m. for 10 minutes on my way out the door. But I think before yesterday, I'm the only person in our entire 42-floor building that had been in the pool. So the only one crazy enough. But yeah, man, successful Memorial Day weekend, busy on the family front. Also busy on the NIL Store front. It was an exciting sports weekend. Lots of postseason play going on. You mentioned you were at a wedding. I was texting you while you were also streaming some Lax finals from the parking lot, right?
Yeah, YouTube TV saves me as always. Literally watching from the parking lot the NCAA men's semifinals. For lacrosse. It was 2 overtime games. It was an insane day of lacrosse. Really weird weekend for me because I've become so spoiled with Maryland men's lacrosse. They're in the Final Four almost every single year. And this year they didn't happen to make it. And so I felt a little like, what the heck do I do? Yeah, there you go. There's my lacrosse stick.
I'm going to pull this
shout
out
Coach Tillman, shout out the
every
boys.
time I get a chance because it still sits in my office. But Sean carries around with him his lacrosse stick, 2017 national champions.
That's right.
For those of you who are just listening and not watching on YouTube, it's a beautiful stick, man. Got the Maryland flag in there. It's great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, got a couple nice things. I got a ring back home. That was some fun times with the team. So yeah, it was weird. It was totally weird. Them not being in the Final Four, not being around Maryland, watching from parking lot, but it was cool for the NIL Store. We had Northwestern women's lacrosse. They were in the Final Four as well as Syracuse. And then on the men's side, we had Duke and Penn State. Northwestern women ended up going to the finals. Duke men went to the finals. Duke unfortunately lost, but our Northwestern women, affectionately known as the Lake Show, they won it all. It was cool.
Bringing back the natty chant for the Lake Show. They're turning into a bit of a perennial powerhouse.
Oh yeah, they've been really good for a while. Their program is awesome. I think their coaches won 8 national titles. This was their first one in a few years. So yeah, it's good to see Northwestern back on top. But yeah, you texted me at one point during the weekend. You were getting a little lax in, weren't you?
Oh, always. It's been a lot of fun. We talked about this during March Madness where, anytime you have some sort of personal investment and
Yeah.
obviously we love to see the success of our athletes happen on the field and help them celebrate that. But it just kind of elevates the stakes, the enjoyment a little bit. Molly Pfeiffer, one of our account managers, she always talks about like they're your athletes, right? You
Yep.
want to see them win. You want to see them play well, even if they don't win. So yeah, I was getting a little bit of lax watching in. Again, we talked about this during March Madness, where as we kind of got down to those final rounds, it's exciting when you start to see our teams getting through to the semis, the quarters, the semis, even going to a final, and to have that on the men's and the women's both again was pretty special.
Yeah.
Turns into a lot of extra work for us, but for the right reasons, right? And I think that's one thing we've talked ad nauseum about, of like what goes into activating those moments. But I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep beating that drum because we just continue to have these conversations of like, oh, well, isn't that exhausting? Yeah, it is exhausting, but it's awesome.
It's what we work hard for. I don't know if you're the same way as me. I'm like, it could be a sport that I know nothing about. If I know that it's a championship game, I always say I'm a sucker for championships. I love seeing people like, there's nothing like that celebration when you put everything you had into it, and watching teams stream on the field and dogpile. Yesterday it was the men's national title game. We were out by the lake. And again, I was streaming it on my phone, and I was with my wife, Cassidy, and her friend, Kristen. And so I'm watching, it's ticking down at the end, and I'm like, hey guys, you suckers for championships like I am. And I tilt the phone towards them. And so we're watching them. And I have an old buddy that actually you met, my friend Robbie, that works in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So he grew up a Notre Dame fan. So that was just really cool. I'm such a sucker for those moments. But yeah, it's awesome.
And I think that's special too. I mean, again, conversations ad nauseum about, NIL is so much bigger than football, basketball, so much bigger than even what you would expect, kind of we'll call it the big five, right? Like the path to pro sports that we have. Lacrosse is such a perfect example of that. Like, it doesn't matter the division really, but to watch people compete at a high level and to be able to use merchandise to celebrate those moments and as that vehicle to allow them to also monetize this and commemorate this moment, right? Like, you never are going to forget a national championship that you won, and you're never going to forget it, but it's great to have some t-shirts to commemorate it as well. So
no doubt.
Lots going on besides lax. Also have some baseball, softball updates. We are hot and heavy into the postseason right now.
Yeah, man, we're rolling. Baseball just finished up conference tournaments. Softball, they're in the College World Series. Florida State, they're through. They're doing incredible. So it's nice to see them go through. Mac Leonard is one of our original athletes that signed up with us. I remember when she first signed. I think she's from Normal, Illinois, and I was just like so infatuated with that. Like, that was a town name. I was like, what the heck is
the
Normal,
name
Illinois?
Normal?
Yeah, and then Mac was instrumental in helping us get to Florida State as a licensee, and a lot of their athletes too. So to see them have success is awesome. And then Alabama with Ashley Prangy, another OG, awesome to see them get through as well.
Yeah, couple storylines here that I want to talk about. We'll touch on the Ashley Prangy one in a minute, but I actually had the opportunity to go out to the ACC Conference Championship.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
for softball. Yeah, this was a couple weeks ago now. Notre Dame was hosting, which is a short drive to South Bend from Chicago, and so you've married the right one when you suggest on a Friday night, hey babe, want to drive out tomorrow morning and spend our day watching the conference finals at Notre Dame, and she's up for it. So Duke versus Florida State, we got to go out there and catch the finals. Was a great game. Florida State ended up walking it off on a little bit of a bloop shot into left field. Kind of one of the neat things that I enjoyed so much about being there was, first of all, was sold out. We actually we had tickets. We had fine tickets. Caught a little bit of traffic coming out of Chicago, and so we were walking up. Maybe, I don't know, it was top of the first inning still, but the game had started, and we ended up standing in the stadium the whole game. There was not a place to sit down. It was awesome environment.
Cool.
both teams traveled really well. So it was awesome to kind of hear, the Duke side going crazy for plays, the Florida
Yeah.
State side going crazy for plays. But the night previous, this is now hearkening back about a month or so ago, Duke had a true freshman, Cassidy Curd, who ended up throwing a no-hitter. And so talk a little about what we did for Cass.
I'm trying to remember. Did we have her signed?
We did. Yep.
We had Cassidy sign it, and I think it was just early on. You know how we do it. We're always looking for moments, right? And next thing you know, Cassidy Kurt's throwing a no-hitter. And I think I remember watching the game, but it's one of those things where you're kind of half watching, you're not paying attention. Then I see the graphic go across the TV, and it says Cassidy Kurt, first ever freshman no-hitter. And I was like,
yeah,
oh,
true
boy.
freshman. Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
Run
boy.
it. This is a moment.
We got to run it. We got to run it. And so it's just immediately you're hitting up Molly, who handles Duke. She has Duke's account for us. And then you're hitting up Chili, who's on the ones and twos on the graphics, and we're getting something rolling. And
on the phone with the licensing directors again.
Yeah. Turns out you're literally at the game and you're putting it in front of her the next day, and it was super cool how it worked out. And yeah, that's the way it goes.
I got to meet her and her parents. I ran
cool.
into them. That it's always another fun thing for us is when we go to games and I'm like kind of elbowing Geneva, like, that's an NIL Store shirt. Oh, that's an NIL Store shirt. And so noticed one of our shirts, and I stopped them. I was like, hey, where'd you guys get that? And I said, oh, Duke actually has an NIL store that we can buy this stuff. And I was like, I thought I recognized that. Introduced myself, got to chat with them. Nicest people you can imagine. And then got to take a picture with Cassidy after the game as well. The catchphrase on the shirt was all Cass, no breaks.
Yeah.
And so she was thrilled. She was laughing because she's like, man, this is what the team chants now. Kind of like turned into a thing for them. And
so cool.
I think, again, when we talk about being able to activate those moments, that's what it's about, right? Is letting somebody celebrate that, and to be able to talk with somebody who's just really grateful and excited about what we're doing is unique privilege for sure.
Yeah, and you met up with Mac too at that game also, right?
Yeah, got to chat with Matt. So talked with her parents. She had a lot of family in, obviously, again, cool. Short drive from Illinois. So chatted with her mom, chatted with her, got to take a photo with her in the ACC championship banner. And yeah, just another great opportunity to meet with an OG and hear a bit from her about the experience. And, obviously they have a lot of softball ahead of them to play, but was just kind of special, and I think really neat, a neat expression of what we're doing at Campus Inc. That's different than what you see anywhere in the market, is being able to show up to a game like that and have so many personal stories. It's not just a checkbox of, oh, a shirt happens to be available somewhere, but it's a shirt that's personal, and to be able to see that is pretty special.
You're totally right, though, about at baseball and softball. I guess it's just because their fans are directly behind home plate. So I'll be watching a game, and I'm just scanning up and down the rows of the crowd
100%.
looking for our shirts.
Yep.
Like Florida State the whole weekend. I was like, that's our 3/4 shirt right there. I love that lady. She is awesome. I hope she's telling everybody else. And then I'm like, I think that's our jersey there. It's so much fun.
It's the game within the game.
Yeah. And I realized I'm not even paying attention to this game. I'm just looking for our shirts in the crowd.
That's when you turn into a true merch head, where you're like, right. Oh, I'm watching that more than the game.
Right.
Other really special, and I love this one, Ashley Prangy, cool. Another cool softball story. You actually put something out on social media that was like, this is how NIL should be activated. So tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, and this is that sort of holistic entire activation, I guess you can call it. I don't even know if that's the right term, but essentially the backstory is Ashley Prangy. She's a star softball player at Alabama, one of the best teams in the country, top 5 team. A lot of times these college teams will partner up with local hospitals or local community places. In their case, the Alabama softball team made friends with a little girl named Madeline who has childhood cancer, and she's at St. Jude's Hospital right now. And she is a massive, massive Alabama softball fan. So Ashley and a few of her teammates have visited her a couple times. And on one of the most recent trips, Ashley actually brought a blank pair of her softball cleats, a white blank pair. And she brought a bunch of markers. And she said to Madeline, hey, I want you to color on my cleats and design my cleats, and I'm going to wear these for the postseason. And so it's just like this beautiful story of Ashley just making this little girl's day week, month, however long it is, just unforgettable moments. And so she wrote hashtag strike out cancer on the cleats, and she's also paired some merchandise with it as well. And Ashley is donating all of her commissions directly to St. Jude's Hospital, which is just a beautiful thing. And she's gotten all of her teammates involved, and they're posting about it. So just like a really, really cool story. And yeah, we talk all the time about what NIL is truly about. People think it's all about athletes being, I don't know, trying to make as much money as possible. No, it's not about that. It's about doing good, right? Doing good in the community. And Ashley's just a perfect story of that.
It's one of those stories. I mean, if you care about sports and how people can use their influence to affect positive change, it's one of those stories that, you know, it kind of makes you emotional a little bit of seeing this, you know, young professional Ashley recognizing, you know, what she has in front of her in terms of opportunity to give back. And Ashley's another OG of the NIL store from the area. And so an early signee, and has been wonderful to work with. And this is not a new thing for Ashley. She has been doing these types of things for her entire career. It's just a part of who she is. And, you know, again, when you go back to just trying to put NIL into a box and say it is this or it isn't that, or it's terrible because of this, you just miss out on so many opportunities to let people leverage their influence in really special ways. And I think, you know, we have a saying around here, and I tell this to our institutional partners all the time, is like, NIL stands for something, right? Name, image, and likeness. But that's not just a bylaw. It's not just an interim policy. That's an individual's name, image, and likeness. And so what really the intention should be is allowing that individual to leverage it in the way that speaks to them, is true to them. And that's what Ashley's done. And she's leveraged it for good and for the community. And, you know, we're all pulling for Madeline and supporting her. And it's been a really cool thing to watch the community jump on board with that.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing for Ashley too, and that was super well said. Just to add on that is, while she's doing this, Ashley's building a foundational brand for herself without even really intentionally doing it. But she's going to be remembered far longer in Tuscaloosa for what she's doing off the field than what she's doing on the field, which is spectacular in its own right. And that's what's really special about it.
Yeah, and again, you know, it's the stuff like this that makes you think, yeah, this is how it should be, you know, NIL done the right way. So we're pulling for you, Madeline. Awesome to see, Ashley. Keep it up. We wish you both, you know, just all the success in the coming future, and definitely have some Alabama softball fans over here in Chicago pulling for you guys. So
no doubt. We're switching gears a little bit. We are moving into the month of June. Summer's here. And we're taking the NIL store on the road a little bit, Adam.
We are, for better or worse. When I look at my calendar for June, I'm like, oh boy. You know, summer, when you work in higher ed, when you work in athletics, college athletics in particular, you know, summer's the off season, obviously. And so lots of conventions, lots of times to reflect, meet up with people in the industry. Two of the biggest events that we'll be at this summer are the NIL Summit, which is actually coming up this week. I believe we will be on our way home by the time this episode is published. And then we've also got NACDA, which is also kind of the overarching professional organization that houses, you know, athletic department marketing teams, athletic department licensing teams, athletic directors as a whole. And so NIL Summit's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia at the College Football Hall of Fame. We'll be exhibiting there as a sponsor. We'll be sitting on a panel. Also be doing some pretty special, pretty neat giveaways while we're there.
What are you going to be talking about on the panel?
So the panel will be with us as a merchandise supplier. Follett will be on there as well as a retailer. And then we'll be in conjunction with Brandar Group, who will be facilitating the conversation. I think On It Sports is also on there as well. So talking about the maturation of the licensing space as it relates to NIL, talking about how, you know, maybe college is a little bit different from the pros, and how do we navigate that space? How do we activate on such a hyper local level? You know, some best practices there and what makes that special. So the NIL Summit is, it's I would say the premier NIL event, right, for college athletes.
Yeah.
I've been kind of describing it like the ESPYs of NIL, right? There's definitely a who's who. Michael Vick, I think, just was announced as one of the keynote speakers, which would be pretty awesome. So it's a little bit different in the fact that this particular event is focused specifically on the college athletes themselves, not necessarily more of the professional industry, and helping them navigate some of the best practices and figure out ways to connect with the right companies at the right time, leverage their brand in the right way, and really just elevate, hopefully, some of the professionalism that they can take into this industry.
And we're creating jerseys for this, aren't we?
We are. So
Yeah.
a lot of really neat awards are given out, best institutional program, best male athlete of the year, female athlete of the year, best entrepreneurial athlete, breakthrough athlete of the year, a lot of really cool awards. And so we, in conversations with student athlete NIL, Sunil, Jason Belzer over there, who's, a great guy, does a lot of cool stuff in the NIL space, had the idea of, what if we made this really special of, you don't just get your plaque or award, but you almost have this like Masters green jacket moment, right? Where you get your jersey with the crowning achievement of an award. And so, yeah, we've got some shout out to our design team, Sean Childers, Paige F. Carey, and we've got some really cool jerseys that will go to the award winners, and then some other fun swag. If for whatever reason this does come out before the event is over, come find us at our booth. We've got a fun game to play. Might even have some fun giveaways for you as well.
If it comes out after, which I think it will, congrats to you in advance or retroactively, Adam, on your great job on the panel. And if the panel didn't go so well, just things to work on. Yeah. Maybe it was the panelists' fault. Who knows?
Yeah, it was the questions that were allowed to me. Yeah.
I mean, they got to set you up to succeed, right?
No, it's gonna be a great conversation. Good partners all around there in Follett and Brandar Group for sure. So. And then the other event that we have, this is later on in the month, heading down to Orlando, Florida. A lot of Southeastern events this year, but going to be at NACDA, which this is not your first rodeo at NACDA. So I'm going to let you take this one and talk a little bit about that event.
Well, I got a little funny story here. I've only been to NACDA once before. This was like 5 years ago. It was in Orlando also. And it was actually, you don't know this story, Adam. This is the first time that I ever saw my now wife, Cassidy, in person.
Really? This is a NACDA love story?
This was, well, kind of, maybe one-sided. So I'm like, all right. So the way it's split up, there's the SIDs, the communications people, there's the marketing people. There tends to be a lot more females on the marketing side of things. The communications guys are very dorky. Like we got our polos on, we're tucked into khaki pants. On the marketing side of the exhibit hall, they're bumping music and they got unlimited drinks, whatever. And so I'm with my friends and I see this good looking blonde walk by and I'm like, who is that? I think she's wearing like something Illinois. And one of my friends who works in marketing, he's like, oh, that's Cassidy. She's super nice. You want me to introduce you? And I was like, nope, I'm good.
Palms immediately sweaty.
Yeah. and so I think they like went over to say hi to her, and I just like stayed apart. I'm like way out of my league. I don't stand a chance.
Like, I think I have some box scores to read.
Yeah, exactly. I got to write a recap or something. I don't know. Stats. I don't know. And so I never ended up talking to her that year. Next thing you know, a year later, she applied for a job at Maryland. She's coming through for an interview. And I was like, that's the same girl from last year. What the heck?
Burned in your brain.
Yeah, this is insane. And so now I'm getting like too deep into the story. But one thing led to another. And
fate could not be denied.
It worked out. So yeah, she always laughs at the story. She's like, why didn't you just say hi to me? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Fate cannot be denied. And she'll actually be back there as well. Obviously, it's one of the biggest events for athletic administrators.
Yeah.
So
so it'll be cool.
Circle.
It's a great event for college athletics. Literally like everybody goes down to this thing, no matter what department you're in. Big for just learning new things, meeting peers, connecting. And so I remember when we first started talking about where we wanted to travel this summer, that was like at the top of my list because I just know that it's, for us to be able to meet with a lot of the people who are influential in the collegiate space, it will be a good place for us to be. And so really looking forward to catching up with a lot of people and hopefully making some new connections and helping spread the word about what we got going on.
Yeah, and honestly, I think in the last year and a half, 2 years, we've learned a lot working with institutions across the country, working with so many different athletes in different sports, and frankly, different licensing clearinghouses and things like that. Okay. But the reality is that there's still a lot to learn, and so that's my favorite thing is when we were at Tailgate in January, and then ICLA, the Winter Symposium was right after that. And now looking forward to NACTA and the different tracks that they have there. That's always my thing is there's just so much to learn in this space. And I'm so grateful to be a part of the community and have the opportunity to, these brands that have been around for 100 years, 75 years, startup brands that, in colleges are ones that are just kind of coming into their own. There's such a wealth of knowledge in this industry. And NIL being so new, always a fascinating conversation around how do we take this nascent space, this evolving space, and integrate it into some of these practices that have been around for so long. And so, yeah, lots of great networking coming down the pipeline for us, lots of great breakout sessions and conversations and wisdom to be gleaned from for sure. So will be a busy June, an exciting June. You may or may not hear from us as much in this format as we're traveling. We also, around here try to take some PTO, a little personal time off and recharge our batteries a little bit. So summer may be a little bit slower for us, but we can assure you that we're not taking our foot off the gas. We're just kind of reorienting our efforts and making sure we're recharged coming back in August, ready to fire on all cylinders for the fall.
No doubt.
Love it. Well, I think that's it. A pretty short, quick recap for a short, quick week.
I got a Cubs game to get to, man.
That's right. You got the bleachers and a couple pints to grab. So without further ado, again, I'm Adam. That's Sean Ellenby. That means this was another episode of the NIL Show. We will catch you guys next time.
See you guys.